Hi, everybody. My name is Cathy Burrell, and I'm the WeBC's Client Services Coordinator. I just wanted to, before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge that we're gathered today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. We recognize, honor, and respect the presence of Indigenous peoples past, present, and future here in the Okanagan. If any of you are not sure what traditional territory you're located on, go ahead and type in the chat, maybe your first name and the traditional territory that you're on. If you're not sure, Jen is going to actually pop it into the chat, a map, and you can go ahead and take a look and let us know. The second thing that I'm just going to remind everybody is that we like to provide webinars to our clients that are relevant to what you're doing in your business. So if you find that there is a topic that you've wanted for WeBC to put on for you, go ahead and type it into our feedback poll at the end of the session. So Jen will launch a feedback poll at the very end. And if you've got an idea, just like one sentence, and we'll be in touch with you to ask you more information on that. Okay, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what we offer here at WeBC. We provide support for your small business journey. We offer financing to get your business started and operating capital to fuel your growth. We offer more flexibility than traditional lenders because we take a holistic approach and provide loans based on your business's viability, not based on a formula like most big banks. This means we provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complimentary training, mentoring, and business advising. The long and short of that is if you were to get a loan with WeBC for the whole term of your loan, which might be 5 years, we would provide you with complimentary business advising and complimentary mentoring for that entire time. So that is sort of our superpower here at WeBC. From essential business skills development to personalized business advice, we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. In our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts around BC who can support and inspire you. You can learn more about our services at we-bc.ca, and we'd love you to sign up for our e-blast newsletter. We would send you one email a month that would have a listing of all these great sessions that we offer every month, information on other women entrepreneurs. It's a great thing to do. So if you want to sign up, just go to we-bc.ca/e-blast, and you'll be able to sign up for that. And Jen will put that also in the chat so that you'll have it. Okay. So we're still letting people in the room, which is great. Thank you everybody for being here today. And what I want to do now is introduce our today's webinar and welcome our panelist, Taunya Woods Richardson, who's the founder and CEO of Nail the Numbers. So is your business fulfilling your financial needs? If you find yourself living off a line of credit, behind on taxes, or using your savings to start your business, you're not alone. But maybe it's time for your financial wake-up call. Taunya Woods Richardson is an entrepreneur who invested everything in her business and lost it all. Now she uses her hard-earned knowledge and expertise to help other business owners confront their finances head on. So we'd like to welcome Taunya. So Taunya, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you go ahead and share yours whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cathy. Can everyone hear me okay? Everyone's got me? I really appreciate all of you turning your cameras on. Thank you so much, Angela and Teresa and Amy and Allison and Joy, because we're here together for the next hour to talk about numbers. And yeah, Natasha, thank you for the wave. I do want to give a shout out to WeBC. We've got Cathy and Jennifer on the call and Brandy. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Thanks for putting your trust in me to talk on the topic of money and finances. And thank you, amazing ladies, for actually having the courage to show up today. Because really, quite honestly, I know that numbers and money are probably the last thing that you actually want to talk about. You probably prefer to go get a root canal from a dentist today versus being here. So I want to thank all of you for showing up so powerfully. It's actually going to be, believe it or not, I'm hoping it's going to be a fun conversation for you. It's going to be very different from anything that you've heard before. I can absolutely promise you that. Okay, so numbers. When we talked about it being the last thing that most people talk about, I also want to contrast that by saying, and I know I get a lot of flack for this sometimes, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to keep it real. It's actually the first thing we should be talking about in business. Because if we're honest with ourselves, there is no business if we're not making money. Does everybody get that? Because I know, especially with women entrepreneurs that I work with, man, we are in it and we talk about wanting to change the world and make the world a better place and solve problems and, make that difference. But if we are not making money, there is no business to be had, right? Your purpose can't be felt. So I see Joy shaking her head. She's drinking the Kool-Aid. That's good, because this is a really important message for everybody to take away today. So I'm just curious, when I say making money, I'd love for you to either take off your microphones or throw it in the chat, but what do you think I mean by making money? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page before we get started here. What does making money mean to you?
Profitability, I guess.
Profitability. Allison, thank you, because a lot of people, when we talk about making money, usually our go-to is we think about sales. And yeah, Riley, that's it, right? We think about income, sales, revenue. We got to make money, make money, make money. If there's one key message I want all of you women to take away today, it's that in business, we need to be profitable. So we need to know when the money comes in, exactly what we're going to be doing with it so that we end up with what we call bottom line profitability. So the truth in business is that making your sales will keep you treading water in business. It will keep you afloat. Sales will keep you afloat. But for you to reach your destination, you need the profitability. And the only way really to get profitability is to plan for it. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today as we move forward. But I want to share a story with you because it's relevant to why I'm actually here. And so in 2002, I started up a business. It was probably my 7th business at the time. It was a company called Powerhouse International, and we were building peer advisory boards for small business owners. It was out of Calgary, and I just moved from Vancouver. Fairview Slopes, Falls Creek. Just moved from Vancouver, started up this business. We were supporting small business owners. And at the time, I was a young woman in an oil and gas town, supporting business owners. Again, entrepreneurship at this point wasn't really on the radar of anybody. And so I was getting a lot of media attention. I was on the cover of the Globe and Mail and the National Post and magazines and doing interviews across the country. And then 2008 hit. And it was probably about 4 short months, my business dissolved. It went down. It went under because the sales weren't there. And at that time, my partner, he had a Ducati motorcycle dealership. He was selling $80,000 motorcycles. His business also went under. He was going through non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4, 2% chance of living. He was given about 2 weeks to actually make it. He did make it through. And also at that time, we found out that we were pregnant with our precious daughter, Sophie. So in 2009, that's when my business, it's what we call, it went insolvent. I didn't have to declare bankruptcy. There just wasn't enough money to actually pay the overhead. So it went insolvent. And at that time, because of everything that was going on, I just didn't have the mental capacity to give it anymore. So closed up shop, moved to Saskatchewan. And it probably took me a year, to be honest with you, to get the strength to actually go back and look at my numbers. And if I'm being really honest, it was the first time that I did a deep dive into my numbers. because when I was running the business, we were generating about 3.5 million in sales. We had 14 employees. We had 2,500 members. And anytime, sorry, I'm going to go back for a second. We had raised $250,000. But anytime I was asked to present my financial statements, I would try to wing it together, right? Like pull them together, try to figure out what they were saying, not really understanding them. And so in 2009, I thought, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And so I went back to my books and I actually started learning about financial modeling through Wharton and through Stanford. So I was taking online courses. And that's when it hit me that my revenue model, the one that I started in 2002, it had been broken all along. And so what was happening, and this happens to many business owners, maybe some of you, is the more money my business was making, the more money I was losing. So specifically, for every $100,000 that my business made, I was losing 105. And no one caught it, not the bookkeepers, not the accountants, not the bankers, not the angel investors that put the money in. But if I'm honest about this and real about this, the person that should have caught it is me as the owner, right? As is true for all of you on the call. You're the owner of the business. It's your responsibility to take ownership of your numbers, not to abdicate them out to bookkeepers and accountants. So this is what we're doing here today. I'm here today because when I figured out that financial modeling, I actually went and became a lender for an organization called CYBF, the Canadian Youth Business Foundation. I had a $4 million portfolio to lend out to business owners that wanted to get started. And I was able to see everybody's cash flow forecast, right? I was able to see their financial models. And in many cases, they weren't great. Founders didn't really understand what their numbers were telling them. They were making projections just to get money. That's why I'm so happy when Cathy said that Women Entrepreneurs BC is in a position to lend based on, right, not the formula, but understanding the lender or understanding the founder and understanding the financials. So long story short, I was looking at cash flows. And then I had the opportunity to look at credit reports. And so behind every forecast I was looking at, I pulled up a credit report, and that's when it hit me that this is the epidemic. It's a silent epidemic that's killing the vast majority of business owners, not knowing the numbers. So in Canada, 98% of business owners go down in their first 5 years. This includes sole proprietors. So 5 years, 98% of us don't make it. And of the 98 that don't make it, 71% are closing their doors because of poor financial management. So today's workshop is the wake-up call, because I know that many of you don't want to look at the numbers. It can be scary. It can be overwhelming. You don't know where to start. There's a language and a vocabulary that we get lost in, like EBITDA and right. And it's just like, who has time for that? I'd rather market and sell and build a team and develop my logo. But my goal today is to motivate every single one of you on this call to see your numbers differently, and more importantly, to do differently when it comes to our numbers. So we're going to look at 3 very specific numbers today. One is going to be your return on investment, because how many of you actually see your business as an investment? Just out of curiosity, just put up a hand. Okay, we see a couple of hands. Do you know that your business is your most, it's the biggest investment that you're ever going to make in your life, and it is your most valuable investment, but you don't look at it as an investment. So we're going to talk about that. Wake up call number 2, get ready for this one, because this is about how much money does the business really need to pay you every month? Not what can it afford to pay you, because oftentimes we only take what we can get at the very last, right? At the very end of the month, we're the last one to get paid, and we just squeak by what we can get. I want you to know exactly how much the business needs to pay you every single month, so that you and your families are taken care of financially, so that there's financial security. And the third number, and again, most people don't even make this correlation, but I want you to realize what your retirement shortfall is. And there's a reason for that. And that's going to kick into gear when we look at those numbers. So those are the 3 eye-openers that I want to take you through today. Now, I'm going to say this at the very beginning, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I don't want to overwhelm you with all the work today. I want to show you the broad brushstrokes of how we get this work done. And at the end of this call, I am going to invite you to a 5-day challenge. And before your prefrontal cortex kicks in and you start worrying about how much this is going to cost, and you spend your whole workshop today going, how much, it's free. There's no cost to you. But you're going to have to wait until the end of the presentation to get the QR code, because WeBC has picked up the tab for you to join this for free. So now you can just relax a little bit and work with me through understanding why we're going to do these numbers. And then at the end, I'm going to show you how to enroll in the 5-day challenge so that we'll crunch the numbers together. 5 days, just 25 minutes a day. All the tools and all the templates that you need. So is everybody on board for that? I just wanted to bring that up now so you're not waiting for this, what was the end going to look like, but you got to stay until the end to get the QR code. All right, so I am going to share my screen now. I'm not a huge fan of sharing my screen because then I can't see all your beautiful faces, so I might switch back and forth a little bit as we go through, but there's a couple of slides that I definitely want to share with you as we move through this. All right, so share my screen. So the first question that we already kind of alluded to in this in my intro here is, why do we start the business, right? Why did we get started with all of your respective businesses? So when I ask this question of most founders, and actually I do want to take a moment here for all of you just to put in the chat or take your microphone off. Why did you start the business that you started? You're all here with a business. Why did you get started in it? Take your microphone off or put it in the chat. I usually have a rule of 3 where I don't proceed unless 3 people put in work-life balance, to support myself, impact. I love it. Let go due to COVID. Awesome. Freedom and profit. I love that, Riley. That's great. Okay, so it's really important for all of us to know why we started the business. And I think, as most of you have just put in here, that most of us, especially women, what I've noticed is we do it from this place of philanthropy and of wanting to be of service and impact and wanting to make the world a better place. Some of us talk about the financial gain that we would have through the business. I don't know if we resist doing that because it's out of fear of sounding greedy or opportunistic. But I just want to get really clear on some numbers before we move forward, because your purpose and your impact is only going to be felt when we get our financial house in order. And I'm sharing these slides here right now, not to be a Debbie Downer, but to just be realistic about the situation that we face as Canadians, because change can only happen when we first become aware of our situation. So just a couple of numbers on the personal side of things when it comes to Canadians and personal finances. These numbers usually stagger people. When we look for feedback, everyone's usually blown away by these numbers. So right now in Canada, we are facing a $13.4 trillion deficit for retirement needs come 2050. And the number one trend that's fueling that deficit is entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs are barely paying themselves enough to scrape by, let alone putting aside their retirement funds. We spend $1.87 for every dollar that we earn. We used to be the second worst country in the world for our second worst country in the world for our spending habits. We are now number 1 because number 1 went bankrupt, and that was Greece. So we are the worst country in the world for spending habits, $1.87. We save 5.7% of our income. That went up after COVID. Before COVID, we were saving less than 3%. 1980, we actually saved over 20% of our income. The average Canadian has $23,000 in consumer debt. That's outside of mortgages. 46% of Canadians were $200 away from insolvency pre-COVID. 28% of Canadians were underbanked, which means that they couldn't get a bank account, or if they could, they couldn't access credit. And then 2 in 10 Canadians before COVID could access $1,000 of cash in the event of an emergency. This is why when COVID hit, the government had to come running to everybody's aid, right? Because financially, we weren't great stewards of our money. So these are some of the averages. Now, what's interesting is that then we get these brilliant business owners and we're like, okay, I'm going to start a business. And we think that the business is going to solve a lot of our financial problems. So one of the things that I want you to be aware of is that when we start talking about financial literacy is a broad term, but when we talk about fiscal stewardship, becoming a steward of our financial situation, there are 5 pillars that we need to take ownership of. And these apply in both our personal finances and they apply in our business finances. One is spending, right? So spending on needs, wants, and splurges. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. The second is saving. We talk a lot about saving and financial literacy. Just so you're super clear, savings is about putting up aside money for emergencies. Right? Once you get that emergency pool, you stop saving. Saving is not saving for a holiday. Savings is not saving for a house. Savings is for emergencies only. The third pillar is investing. And the primary purpose of investing, purpose number 1, is to make sure that your money is making enough money so you have enough money for retirement. That's the first purpose of investing. Once you get your retirement needs set aside, then you can become the day trader. Right? Then you can start moving money and it's all about making money. But goal number 1 is to get that retirement taken care of. Then the fourth pillar is sharing. And sharing is, it's how we give back. And so taxes are actually a form of sharing, believe it or not. So we've got tithing with churches, donations, different causes that we may support. And then we have taxes as well. And our fifth pillar, which very few people talk about, is earning. So earning that money. Right? So what happens when we start a business is, as we just talked about in the first slide, we start a business probably somewhat financially compromised, and then we further compromise our financial situation at home. And I say this with love because I did many of these things. Under spending, we start tapping into our line of credit cards to start the business. We take out personal loans, right? Those personal loans impact our personal financial situation. We then, under our savings, this was mine, I wiped out my savings. Not only did I wipe out my savings, I wiped out my RRSPs and put all of that money into the business that went down in 2009. In investing, you might be putting liens on property to be able to access cash, cashed in investments, as I talked about. And then we have something called promissory notes. So when we borrow money now, especially after 2008, lenders ask you to sign a legal agreement called a promissory note, which means that in the event that the business is not able to repay its loans, that you are personally obligated to repay the loans, right? This is what leads to personal bankruptcies, right? If not managed appropriately. And then sharing, one of the big issues with sharing is that as founders, when we pay ourselves that monthly amount, right? That business pays us that monthly amount that we need to survive, whether it's going to be a dividend or a salary. Very rarely do we set aside the taxes that we need to pay on that. And then we get a huge bill at the end of the year and we're like, holy Hannah, where am I going to get this money from? Right? So just another way we start digging that grave for ourselves. And then obviously our earning potential is reduced dramatically. So when you think about how much you could be earning right now working for another company, right? Especially now because everybody's looking for people, would that rate be $40, $50, $60, $75 an hour? What would you be making by working for somebody else versus what you're getting paid right now? And in most cases, it's not commensurate. The responsibilities that you have as a business owner, you are not getting fairly paid for those. So when we start looking at this next slide, this is what it results in. It now results in a business fiasco, right? Where we've got the vast majority of founders now, not only are they personally compromised, but they don't have an exit strategy in place for how they're going to get out of the business. Their average income per founder is $59,000. A general manager, just so you know, in Canada, just a general manager, not even a CEO, is $127,000. That's the average compensation for a GM. And we're paying ourselves $59,000 on average. 87% of us are not getting that fair compensation. The average credit card debt per founder is $35,000. As we talked about, 71% of Canadians close their doors to poor financial management. 53% of us have a stable credit score, which means 47 do not. And we talked a little, oh no, we didn't talk about this so much, but we're going to talk about it. 89% of the founders that we have worked with over the last 15 years are generating less than a 3% net profit. And that is going to lead us into our next conversation in terms of why that is so important. So just moving through this, I find it really interesting because in our country, we talk about the fact that, I'm just going to stop share for a minute, but we talk about the fact that most founders are failing because they don't know how to manage money. But if we're really honest with each other, managing money is actually pretty easy, right? Spend, save, share, like really we know the basics. I believe why the vast majority of founders are failing is because of the gap, the GAP. They don't have a goal. They don't know what they're building. They don't have emotional alignment with the goal, right? So G is the goal, A is alignment, and P is the plan. This is why most business owners are going down. GAP. So we got to fill the gap. So one of the things that I want you to be aware of as you move forward, and you can take a picture of this slide if you want, but the next time somebody asks you why you started your business, I want you to be able to answer these 5 questions. I want you to be able to articulate, I'm building a business that will be worth X dollars, because your business is your biggest investment, most powerful investment. So how much do you want your business to be worth? By when? You put in the year. By having what impact, AKA solution. So when I ask most of you, why did you start your business? We all talk about making the world a better place. So this is where you get to put your purpose in here. And then number 4 is your audience. So on who, right? Who are you serving? And then by providing what products and services. So I'm building a business that's going to be worth X by this year, by having this impact on this group of people, by offering these products and services. This actually becomes your elevator pitch, right? Your North Star. Now you have a clear vision on what it is that you're building. Now, most of us don't even know how much we want our business to be worth, right? And in my 15 years of doing this, there's only been 2 companies that have been able to articulate what they're actually building from a worth perspective. One was an AV company actually out of Vancouver that said, you know what, in 3 years, I'm going to be selling my company for $500,000 to these 3 employees, and then I'm going off and I'm retiring. And the other company was Skip the Dishes. And Skip the Dishes, they came to me as a lender at CYBF. It was their first $45,000, and they were getting 20 additional tablets for Saskatoon. But they knew that they were getting out in 5 years and they wanted $10 million. And they knew what they were doing when they got out of Skip the Dishes. They had a very concrete plan. They had very clear, it was crystallized what they were doing, what they were building, how much they wanted it to be worth, what they were providing for who, and when they were getting out and what they were going to do on the other side of getting out. They had the goal, they had the alignment, and they had the plan. So 5 really important questions that you need to be able to answer as you move through this journey of entrepreneurship.
Tanya, I think you're frozen.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
She might have to reboot. Thanks for your patience, everybody. It shouldn't take a minute.
It's really interesting statistics.
Aren't
Like,
they?
I never expected that. Kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so many people think about business, from the idea point of view, but they don't
Yeah.
really think about it from the numbers. And
Right.
like Tanya said at the very beginning, if you don't have a business that's making any profit, or, you know, if you're not profitable, you really, somebody told me one time, I had a clothing store, that you just have a hobby. You don't have a business. So a bit shocking, but true. And, you know, it's amazing what you can do, how your mind shifts when you know that you have to make some money every month, and, you know, your family's depending on you. And yeah, so yeah, I think this is actually really great for any level of business, you know, wherever you are. It's good to know where you're going. You know, that North Star idea is really, yeah, like every day when I wake up, I know what I'm doing. So it's great.
Yeah, that's interesting too. The paying yourself like $60,000 a year, and then in employment, a lot of positions, higher positions, make
Exactly.
127,000 a year, and you're like, what am I doing?
I
But
know.
like you mentioned, different finance goals and requirements at different levels of your company as well. Beginning, mid, 10 years in, 12 years in as
Oh
well.
yeah. Oh, and it adds up over the years too, like how much less you're making than you should be, you know.
Yeah.
It looks like Taunya just got back into the waiting room. Jen just let her in, so hopefully it should just be a few more minutes before we're off and running. It's like a cliffhanger on a TV show. It's like, oh,
Commercial break.
exactly, exactly.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome. Hey, I apologize. I have no idea what's happening with my computer, and I can't even get out of it right now. So
Okay.
I appreciate your patience, and we're just going to continue on, maybe not without slides right now, while I try to multi-purpose on the back end here. Or actually, maybe Cathy, I think you have a copy of the slide deck. If there's any way that you could pull that up, I'm just going to keep crunching the numbers here with everybody, and then we'll move forward. So the first thing, as you can still see this screen, I want you to think about what that fair hourly rate is. I don't know where I lost you exactly, but use 35 if you don't know what that fair hourly rate is. And then, because 35 will get you $75,000 a year. And then I want you to multiply that by how many hours you work per week. So in the example, as you see here, I put 40, but maybe you're working more than that, right? Maybe you're working 40, 50, 60, whatever that may be. So in that next box, what we should have now is what your fair weekly compensation should be. So in the slide, you'll see 1,400. And if you can't see the slide right now, I'm not sure exactly what you're seeing, but if you can't see the slide, we just take 35 times 40 equals 1,400 in fair weekly compensation. Okay, so then the second step is that we take that, what we should be making or what the business should be paying us, and we're going to subtract what the business actually pays us per week. So again, you might not know exactly what that number is, but I want you to give it a stab, and you'll see in the example is that if we think that the business should be paying us 1,400 and we're only making 1,000 per week, the business really does still owe us $400 per week. So that's the second number. Everybody doing okay? Everybody just give me a head shake that you're following along okay? Angela is no. Okay, so I'm going to just take this back. Forget the numbers. I just want you to broadly think about this is what we call sweat equity. So when you think about the time that you've started the business to now, I want you to just roughly think about how much money do you think the business owes you? Right? Just let's take it at a broad brushstroke like that, right? And think about, okay, so the money that I have not been paid from the business, roughly what would that be? So, you know, you might think, okay, I'm probably short 20,000, it might be 50,000, it might be 100,000, whatever that number is, just come up with the number. That's not the important thing right now. The important thing is to realize that you're probably owed money, right, from sweat equity.
Yeah.
Then the second number is think about how much money have you put into the business. So think about all the money that you've invested, from websites to logo creation to getting your incorporation set up, right? All of that money that you might not have said, oh, I've invested, you know, $25,000 into it, but everything that you've paid for up until now is actually a financial investment into the business. So I want you to think about what that is. So now you add up the two. So we're just going to keep it really simple that way. Add up the two and you're going to have a number. So if it's 25,000 in sweat equity and 25,000 in capital, you're actually in for $50,000 into the business, right? You put a $50,000 investment in. Can you just give me a head shake if you're with me on that math, just broad brushstrokes, right? So what is your investment in? And groups like WeBC will actually ask you, what is your investment in? What is your owner's equity? Like, how much skin do you have in the game? So you got to be able to clarify. Sweat equity is one thing, capital in, owner's contribution is a second. So now we have that number. So that's great. Okay. So then the second piece I want you to think about, do you remember on your financial statement, specifically your income statement, at the very top of an income statement, it says how much your sales are, right? Total sales for the company. So I want you to think about let's just take last year. So 2023, think about what your total sales were for the company. And now I want you to think about, most founders know the sales, but I want you to think about another number, and that is, what was your net profit? So in that same income statement, when you go all the way to the bottom, there's something called net profit, or maybe it's net income. And I'm not expecting you to have your financial statements open. But when I ask founders what their net profit is, most don't know, right? They don't have a clue. They can't remember, or they think, I don't know, the accountant said there was money there, but I didn't see it. It's not in my bank account. I have no idea what you're talking about. How many of you roughly know what your net profit is? We got a few people. Awesome. Okay. So here's what you do. You take your net profit. So let's say the company made $100,000 in sales, and let's say the net profit was $2,000. You take your net profit and you divide it by what your sales are. So 2,000 divided by 100,000 equals 2%, right? So that's the math you would do. You take your net profit, you divide it by your total sales, and you come up with a percentage, right? And yeah, so if your net profit is negative, then your percentage will also be negative, right? Great question. Okay. So in the work that we do, that 89% of founders are generating less than a 3% net profit, less than 3. And usually, what's the one expense that most founders don't account for in their numbers, in their income statement? So they got space, and they've got utilities, and they've got their phone. But what's the one expense that most founders don't account for? Yes,
Salary.
that's it. Personal salary. So you have to take that personal salary out of that percentage. And then what usually happens is we get a wah, 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 and we get the negative, right? It actually makes that sound on your financial statement, wah, 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 wah. So here's the wake-up call. And this is where it gets kind of tragic, and it's a little bit of a bummer. I'm not going to lie, but it's going to motivate you to do differently. A high interest savings account in Canada will pay you 6%. It would have taken you 10 minutes of your time, and it's 100% guaranteed. I'm just going to let that sit in for a moment. So if you had taken that investment of 50,000 and put it in a high interest savings account, you could have made 6% on it. But for most of us, we have been slogging away on our business, putting in over 60 hours per week and making less than 3. Does that resonate with everyone?
Yeah. Do you see Jen's slides there, Taunya?
Yes.
Great.
Now can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And now my video is stopped. Good Lord. What is going on? Okay.
Jen can flip
Yeah,
for you.
and my
Taunya.
back. Okay, I'm good.
Yep.
Okay. All right, on the phone, technology. Okay, so that's wake up call number 1. Thanks for sharing the slides, Jen. As soon as the slides came up, I lost everybody's picture. And of course, my computer is upgrading right now. It decided to take this moment to upgrade. All right. Okay, so that's wake up call number one. So I want to put all of you in a position to make 11.5%. That is my goal in the work that we do. So wake up call number two, Jen, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide. Wake up call number two, again, we're not going to do this math today, but what I want to show you is that on average, most of us are not getting paid what we actually need to get paid. So forget about fair market value. In the work that we do together, we're actually going to look at how much we need to get paid by dialing in on what we need for spending on needs. So spending on needs are things like our mortgage, our car, groceries, right? Our kids' activities. So we're going to get super focused on exactly what are those expenses every month. The next category is spending on wants. So wants are a little bit more discretionary. Usually in the work we do, wants are things like those subscriptions. There are things like grooming. There are extra things like traveling, some extra things in the area of healthcare. So if we were in the middle of a world breakdown, an economic breakdown, they're likely the things that would go pretty quickly, right? We don't need the 20 subscriptions to Disney and Paramount and then Netflix and Crave. And so wants are discretionary. And then the next category that you see there are splurges. And usually the category of splurges, these are, for most of us, it's entertainment and eating out, right? And a lot of us overspend in those categories. So in the work we get to do together, we're going to figure out exactly what those numbers are. Now, as we move down, and I don't have the slide right in front of me, but I think that the next thing that you're going to see is how much do you need to set aside for savings, right? So right now, when you think about how much you put aside, how many of you actually save every month? Do you put money aside? Most people, some do, awesome. And remember, when we think about that first slide, we're sitting at about 5.7%, I think is what we do for savings. So when we work together, we're actually going to understand how much money do you need to be putting into your savings. And then we're going to look at how much money do you need to be putting into investing, right? So that is crucial as we move forward. So as you move through that, then you'll see the next box right there is for sharing. So how much money do you currently apply to sharing every month? So whether it's tithing with your church or whether it's general donations, what is that number? And then as you move down, do you now see the total? When you add up those boxes, you get a total there. So that total, when you do the math, just roughly, that total, I forget what it is, it's 8,000 and change there. That total is saying, okay, here's what currently our spending habits look like, or our financial situation looks like. And then as you move through it to the next slide, Jen, you'll see from that amount, what you'll do is you'll take out how much your partner contributes to the household finances every month. So in that example, you'll see maybe 6,000. So here's what the household needs. The partner brings in X dollars. And then can you see that there's a number there now that's reading 2,000 is what's needed now. So the difference between what's needed and then the partner. Now you're saying, okay, in our household finances, here's how much we actually need to bring in. Can everybody see that number?
Yeah.
Yep. And so what are we forgetting? So most founders will say, okay, so now the business just needs to pay me $2,000 a month and household finances will be fine. They'll be taken care of. But what are we forgetting? We talked about, yes, Riley, that's it. Taxes. So we need to add approximately 30% to that number for taxes. So when we get all of our math done, what you'll see at the bottom of that slide now is that we think that the business needs to pay us, whatever that is, 2,300, I forget the exact number. But in the work that we have been doing with founders, that number on average is 2.3 times higher. Because most of us, we've been taught to budget from the perspective of doing what we can with what we make, instead of how much do we need to make sure everything can get done, right? That's the tragedy. So when you actually go through this math, step by step by step, and again, we're going to get an opportunity to do this together starting Friday, the amount that you really need to be earning is likely 2.3 times greater than what you're currently earning. The business has to get you into that position so that it can pay you what you need to be making. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody's cool with that? Okay. Now, the third ROI, or sorry, yeah, the third wake-up call is our retirement shortfall. Sorry, and I'm multitasking in the back here to see if I can get my slide up, because this one's an interesting one. So in the retirement calculator, you can see, oh, so Teresa, your question about where did the 2.3 come from? That is in our experience of doing this for the last 15 years when we work with founders and they actually do a real budget, right? They realize, I'm not making enough money. So it's on average, the number most founders have to be pulling in, because we ask them, we see their before snapshot and then we see their after snapshot. So the average is that 2.3. And that is, that's why we're coming up with that number. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. All right, so the third number is the retirement shortfall number. And you can see in that next slide, I've given you, again, a really broad approach to figuring out your retirement number. I actually don't want you to do that math because it's not accounting for inflation. It's not accounting for compound interest. But instead, Jen, if you don't mind, if you go to the next slide, you can see in the work that we get to do starting on Friday, we have a retirement needs calculator for you. And this is where we get to do the formula will actually do all of the math. So just give me a second because I have my presentation up. I'm going to keep your presentation up, the one that Jen doing. I just want to see this exact same page that you're all seeing because I want you to see exactly what's going on here. Okay, so can everybody see the calculator, that page with the, okay. So in the calculator, here's what you get to do. You get to put in your current age, and then underneath, you're going to put in the age that you want to retire at, how many years that you actually need retirement funds. So the 20 is suggesting that I'm going to pass away at 82. And then that's telling us how many years to invest. So like all of our calculators, all of the information, we just have to put in information in the pale yellow areas, and everything else will process for us. Then in this calculator, we're actually going to put how much our investments are currently making, right? So 9% in this example. The return after retirement, and this again is why I want to be able to work with you on this, because this is the work we do on Wednesday, and I'm going to explain each one of these boxes in more detail. But look at that next box, which is annual inflation at 3%. So anybody remember what inflation went up to last year? Went up to 8.9. Went up to 8.9%. So on average, we're sitting at about 2-3% right now. And I don't know the exact number today. And then we're going to put in our annual salary and how much we currently invest. We figure out all of those numbers together. And then on the right-hand side, so everything under that yellow column, that first block is actually asking you to establish how much money do you want to live off of per year in retirement. So in this example, you can see it's $100,000. Now, what's interesting here is this calculator is now accounting for that inflation rate, right? And it's doing the math for you. And it's saying that we think we need to make $100,000 today, but based on 3% inflation, by the time that you want to retire at 62, it's actually going to be 165 that we need. So in today's dollars, it's 100,000, but by the time we get to retirement, it's going to be 165. So underneath now is showing you that the total needed to fund your retirement is $3 million, right? And then as we proceed through the numbers, we're going to take away from that any of our current investments. So our property and our RRSPs and our TSFAs and our Canadian pension plan, our CPP. And then that's going to show us what our shortfall is. So in this case, we have a shortfall of $976,000. This will take you 5 minutes with the calculator, and you and your partner can do this together over a bottle of wine. It's what you need. Dream big on the retirement, but I want you to know this number specifically, because how many of you right now know what your retirement shortfall is? Anybody know? Amy does. Amy knows her number. It's so important that you know the number. And I know like everybody hates to hear, I didn't listen to it when I was younger. The younger you start setting money aside, right? Compound interest, but we need to make up that number. Aside from setting aside money for investing and getting our investments making that $976,000, where else can we find $976,000?
When you sell your business.
When you sell the business, that's exactly it. So we're going full circle here, because remember when that question around, I want you to know how much you want your business to be worth, that's where you get that number. So most people pick a number. They're like, oh, $10 million. I want it to be worth 10 million. I want it to be worth 20 million. But there's no emotional alignment with that goal. They're picking a number for the sake of picking a number. I want you to know exactly my business needs to be worth $976,826 by this year, so that your retirement shortfall is taken care of. Your business is your most powerful investment. And it, believe it or not, it's the one that you can control. Most of you feel out of control with your business investment right now because you don't have a financial plan. You have more control over your business than you do putting money in the stock market. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you where to put your money, but you get to control the outputs and the outcomes of your business. You get to control that. But most of us, especially as women, we don't see it that way, because we've gone in with blinders and we're hoping people are going to buy from us, and we're discounting our price because we want people to buy from us, and we're not paying ourselves a healthy salary, and we're generating less than a 3% net profit. We've got to turn all of this around, right? We've got to do that. So the next slide, can someone tell me what the next slide? Oh, I know what the next slide is. I'm on my slides here. I'm not going to skip this one, but this next slide is showing you the debt repayment calculator, because that's the work we also get to do. So instead of just, I'm carrying debt right now and I don't really know how much I need to be paying every month so that I'm out of debt, the work we get to do together is to actually put together a 36-month debt repayment plan, so that you know exactly every month, here's how much I need to apply to my debt, right? And that again is going to change how much the business needs to pay you every month. Because when you do this calculator, I'm not going to lie, it's a I want to vomit moment when you see how much you're paying in interest. And again, awareness is where change starts. Like, you need to become aware. It is uncomfortable to do this work, but I promise when you actually see the numbers, you're now motivated to, like, game on, time to do differently, time to turn this ship around. So we get to do that together. So, sorry, I'm just moving through. I'm going to skip this next. This is basically what I was talking about, where in our current financial snapshot, you can see here that most founders are over budget. They are spending 117% of what they make. Most of it is going on credit cards. You will have a snapshot exactly like this when you do this work with me next week, right? Starting Friday. You'll know what your current snapshot looks like. And then on the right, you're going to know what your stronghold needs to be. So in this case, we know that we need to be earning $45,000 per year to make sure that we have what's called a zero-based balance budget, right? And that's what the business needs to get us to. All right. So the next slide here, this is where I'm going to ask you to take action. So I want to thank you again for your patience today with all these technical glitches. But here's where I really want to work with you. We're starting on Friday. There's no charge to this. WeBC has picked up the tab. We're going to have 5 days together. Friday, I'm just going to lay out what the challenge is. This QR code is going to bring you to the page that's going to explain exactly what we're going to do together. It's going to take you through day by day. It's an investment of 25 minutes a day. So there's no financial investment, but I'm only going to ask you to sign up if you're prepared to commit to meeting all 5 days for 25 minutes. And you're probably going to have an extra 30 minutes of work to do each day. On here, it says it's 90. When you go in here and you go to purchase, you're going to use the code WeBC2024 to get it for free. So it is case sensitive. So all lowercase, exactly what's in your playbook here. WeBC, WEBC 2024 to get it for free.
We are going to meet on Friday. I'm going to walk you through the challenge, and you're going to get the whole weekend. There's no calls on Saturday and Sunday, but you're going to get the whole weekend to start pulling together all of your financial information, and then to actually start getting your current snapshot done. And WeBC is going to send out the deck after, as well as the link. So there's another link that we can send you, so you don't have you don't have to use the QR code. All of that is going into your follow-up notes. So we're going to make that super simple for you. Okay, Riley, I can see you joined. Teresa, awesome. Please take advantage of this opportunity. We do this challenge 3 times a year. This is going to be the last time we do it this year. There's nothing that you can lose from doing this. And ideally, this is something that you do with your partner. So this is the personal budget that we're going to do. And by Thursday, you will know exactly what the business needs to pay you every month. And you're going to know exactly what your retirement shortfall is, which means you're going to know exactly how much you need to turn your business into, right? The value of your business. So we're going to do that together. Now, what happens by the time we get to Thursday, you're going to have those 2 motivating factors that's going to go, okay, you're going to say, game on. I want to make sure my business is in a position that it will allow me to get paid and to make sure that I can create that value in it. This is where the P part of the plan comes in. So you're going to have a goal. You're going to be emotionally aligned with the goal. And then we have a plan. So Jen, if you wouldn't mind going to the next page, which is the plan page. And I'm actually going to ask you to scoot one more page over, which is the cash flow canvas. So WeBC is investing in a 3-day workshop, which is going to start September 17th. I'm going to talk more about this when we do the challenge. But once you've got your personal budget built, and that will be by Thursday, you'll be done. Then we can work together on building your business budget. And that's going to be through the cash flow canvas, because we have to do those 2 budgets. Your budget is your financial plan. Your budget shows you exactly how to get from where you are to where you need to be. And most importantly, as we talked about, the budget is what is going to show you how you make that profitability, because it's actually the priority. That's why we build the budget. We build the budget so that we know that for every single dollar that comes in, we know exactly where it's going to go out, spending, saving, sharing, investing. And then we're going to see what that net profit is. That net profit goes into a category on your balance sheet called retained earnings, right? And retained earnings are what allow us to weather economic storms. So there's 3 reasons why I want to work with you on building the business budget. So profitability, absolutely. And why we want profitability. Can anybody guess? Like, take off your mics and just say, what are the 3 most powerful things that net profitability affords us all as business owners? Freedom. I love it, Kim. Absolutely. Freedom. You bet. What else do we have?
Choice.
Financial security, saleability. I love that, Amy. Yes. So to articulate net profit, again, we live in a society where there's a huge stigma attached to profitability, but net profitability, not the sales, net profitability, 1, it becomes our emergency net. It is our safety net in business. So just like we talked about in the personal budget, our business needs a safety net. What fuels that safety net is the net profit. So 1, it's our emergency net. It's our safety blanket. Number 2, it is our ROI. It's our return on investment. It's showing us both short term, like we talked about, most of us are making less than 3%. We want to get you to 11.5, right? So it's showing us what our return on investment is short term. And then of course, it's our return on investment long term when we go to sell the business. And third, which you're all going to love, because this is why you start the business, it's from net profit that our impact is greater. Most of us take what we make and then we give a lot of it away, right? The donations, and we're not charging the right price. So we give. It's from net profit that you give. It's from net profit that Jim Pattison is able to build 20 hospitals around the world, right? It's net profit that allows you to have greater impact. So that's the third reason why we need that net profit, because it allows you to survive, and then it allows us to amplify our impact in the world. So,
Taunya,
yes,
it's Cathy Burrell, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we've only got about 2 minutes left.
awesome, Cathy. We're
Today.
done. We're
Okay.
done. I just wanted to show this next slide.
Great.
Again, the QR codes here. So the two things I
And-
want you to take action on today. One, sign up for the wake up call. Let's get our personal budget built, right? All of the information is there. We'll talk a little bit more about the business budget after we get the personal budget built, but that one's going to start September 17th, and the information that you need is right there. And then the next slide is my information, where my email is there, my phone number is there. Again, I just want to thank all of you so much, and WeBC, Cathy and Jennifer and Brandy. Thank you for your patience while I maneuvered this technical glitch. That's a first for me. I can't believe that. But and thank all of you for showing up so powerfully and moving along with me as we navigated those glitches. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have if you send me an email. But again, so honored that you're all here to hopefully see and now do differently when it comes to your numbers.
Yeah, what a fantastic presentation. And Taunya, we're getting nothing but thank yous and, in the chat. So that's fantastic. You've really hit a chord, I think, with people, and that's what we wanted to have happen today. And it's because of you. So thank you so much. And everybody, don't worry, don't stress. I mean, this presentation is going to be sent to you via email today or tomorrow. You're going to get the slide deck. You're going to get everything. And if anything you don't get in a timely manner in the next couple of days, send an email to us at WeBC. I want to thank Taunya so much for this presentation. It was fantastic. And again, it takes a few minutes for everybody to kind of get everything in their head. But again, Taunya, the way you delivered it was so great with the engagement. Everybody, I think, had time to think and have time to respond. And yeah, it was great. So thank you very much. Taunya Woods Richardson from Nail the Numbers. She's the founder and CEO. And believe me, ladies, anybody that's signing up, it's going to be life-changing. So thank you, Taunya. I just want to do a really quick, talk a little bit about, again, financials. We've got these 3 SMART programs available completely free from WeBC until the end of this year. One of them is on finances, financial fitness. One of them is HR for business, and one of them is on strategic marketing. And if you're curious about them, you can go onto our website and just in the search bar, hit SMART programs or send us an email, give us a call, and we'll get them for you. I just wanted to mention that there's a couple more upcoming events. We're doing another PAC series on how to sell, prepare a contract for the government. We're talking about grants. We're talking about cash flow. So anyway, anybody have any questions for Taunya? In the next, I'll take 3 questions and we'll go ahead. And in the meantime, Jen is going to put up the feedback poll. The feedback poll helps us understand how we did, whether the presenter was clear, whether you got some value from the program. And again, if anybody has a brilliant idea of something, a webinar, a session that they would like WeBC to present, please put that into the feedback poll. We appreciate all of your information. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please be sure to sign up for our e-blast newsletter to learn more about what we offer here at WeBC. And any questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand, or you can just take your mic off and ask Taunya a question. Go ahead. It is Maria. Go ahead. Get yourself off mute. Maria,
Hi.
you have a question.
Thank you so much for the webinar. It's been very helpful. I just have a question because my business is like have a roof, so it's limit on sales. So I don't know how to get more profit if there is a limit, because I'm in the daycare business. So I'm just gonna have 8 children. I cannot have more children and cannot charge like a lot to parents.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Everybody, usually when we finish our budget together, the personal budget, a lot of founders get scared because they're like, what if I can't make that amount of money, right? In business, there really is no capacity issue. right? If we think it's labor, if we think it's space, if we think it's time, there's always a way that we can reinvent the business that we're in, but we need to know what that number is so that we can reinvent it appropriately, right? And make sure that we get that number in. Every business is different. Every single financial model is different. There's no cookie cutter, but I promise you, when we start adding up the numbers, there's always a way to make a business model work, always.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Anybody else have a question for Taunya? We've got probably another minute left.
Can you please just clarify the dates of this 5-day workshop? I'm not-
Absolutely. You bet. So we start on Friday, and I'm not going to share the time right now but it's going to be in the morning because I don't want to get that wrong. And it's going to be 25 minutes every day. So I believe it is going to be at 8:35 a.m. Pacific. We start on Friday. We have no calls on the weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, you're bringing together information. And then we're going to meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, every morning, again at 25 after the hour for 25 minutes.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Taunya. Winnie's got her hand up. Winnie, go ahead and take yourself off mute and you'll be the last question.
Okay, just a very quick question. I'm not available next week, but I would love to join. So when is the next challenge if I'm not available next week? Is that time slot that I think 8:30 time slot that I'm not available?
Yeah, so the next challenge is going to be, I believe it's January 6th is when we've got the next one booked. But if you send me some information, I can send you a link. We're going to be doing an evergreen challenge or evergreen opportunity. So it won't be a challenge. We won't get to work together, but at least you'll get access to all of the tools and resources. So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
send me an
Thank you.
email. I'll make sure I can get you that information.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Winnie. Okay, I want to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you all, everyone, for showing up today. Feedback poll, I hope you've put everything in. Thank you so much to Taunya. It was a great session, and keep in touch, everybody, and enjoy the session next week with Taunya if you're signing up. And please let us know how it went, how much you loved it, how it changed your life. And thanks a lot, Taunya, for being here today.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your
Thanks,
patience.
everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye for now.